I just want you to know that it really means a lot. It means a lot in the world that you are doing this. It means a lot to me personally, and I'm really happy to be with you today. So feel free to, if there's a chat, or, I'll try to check. I'm a little daffy with the Zoom, but I'll do my best. Can everybody see? Is everybody on you good? Okay, so I call this the art of engagement because I think that engaging your audience, in other words, interpretively, technically, with everything that you do, should be integrated. So there's no such thing as, okay, I just am a performer and then I go out and do educational programs. It's all about engaging your audience. We want to break the circle. We want to break the wall down. We don't want to have that. And we want to, no matter what the music is that we play, if it's the traditional Western European canon, which is wonderful and a living, breathing history for us, and also music that, is representative of cultures from all over the world. In my view, that's all classical music, and it all should be given the same, you should be able to share it in the same way. So I want to enter into some of the nitty gritty today, if that's okay, about, really making a wonderful program and considering how you present to audiences, perhaps outside the concert hall. I am working at a program right now called Encore, and we have 8 string quartets, and they're all performing, but they will all be speaking just a little bit about each piece. So that's kind of the general. You should become comfortable to be yourself, but also project. To be able to speak a little bit to audiences. It's just developing a just relationship human to human. And even a little bit can go a long way to make an audience feel safe. Okay, so next. Let me just close this. Let's see, maybe actually, it's nicer if I hear somebody else's voice. Okay, Matthew, can you read this for everybody?
Yes. I'll just go ahead. The Art of Engagement presentation is designed to assist chamber music ensembles interested in creating educational concert programs for audiences of all ages, including preschool, elementary, middle, and high school students that combine both spontaneous and prepared moments of musical magic. Recognizing the natural ability of chamber music playing to inspire cognitive and emotional development in children through empathy and interaction, the Cavani Quartet, in addition to their more than 30-year performing career, has actively developed and performed thousands of educational concert presentations for audiences of all ages in rural and urban communities in all 50 states. Through these programs, it is the goal of the Cavani Quartet to inspire and engage young audiences, as well as share the energy of a superlative, communicative chamber music experience.
Okay, you are amazing. You are an amazing reader. Thank you. I'm just going to have to travel around with you when you read it. It's awesome. I couldn't have done better myself. Okay. So you see in the picture, I don't know if this arrow is where, let me use the little pointer. It's so fun. Laser pointer. So this is at a school here in Cleveland. This is the former Cavani Quartet, Mary, Kirsten, Mari, and Annie. And we're just having a good old time. You'll notice that we're all standing. And maybe I'll play this little clip later on, but we'll just continue with this. Oh, whoops. No. Okay, there it goes. Here we go. I will read this for you. It's really about joy. Find joy in the music. Find joy in your instrument. Find joy in your audience. You cannot go wrong. You really can't. But allowing yourself to respond naturally. As you can see, there's a lot of joy going on in this picture. This is a chamber music program that I inaugurated at CIM. This is the final performance, and there's a lot of shenanigans going on. Here's another school. We went to work with these kids, and actually, I think this is in Florida. I can't remember exactly where, but I love this picture. We were trying to help them just kind of, really feel their bow arms, and everybody was supposed to do like raise their arm like the end of a piece. And you can see that the student in the middle is like totally going for it. It's such a great picture. And on the right-hand side of the screen, this is what I call Kavani 2.0. So I'm a founding member. Right here is Kyle, if you can see with the pointer, that's Catherine and Eric. And they all were former students, and now they're in the quartet. And these are a group of kids in Erie, Pennsylvania after a concert. This is some years ago, but if you have a pair of sunglasses, it can go a long way for having fun with a young audience. Okay. I think probably Eric Booth may have mentioned some similar ideas. Think about everything as a partnership, trusting your audience, have some knowledge about your audience, know what age you're playing for, where people are in their lives, what expectations might be or not be. Make sure that you put the art center stage. That's what this is about. It's a no-fail zone. Find correlations to the place where you are, to the weather where you are, to the people, to the culture, language, anything you can do to connect. You make your audience feel safe. Humor is always good for that. And, you have to be open to spontaneity. That being said, we use a scripted program. I'm going to repeat that. It is really important to script your program, even if you're just going to play at the local senior center, have an outline. Know what you're going to talk about, what the thread is, so that you feel calm and you're giving the audience a really dignified experience that way. So this little picture here was inspired by the Ravel String Quartet, for those of you who have played it. We did it's also great to use literature, visual art, poetry, anything you can do to connect with students. Sometimes you can't always make music when you go into a school with the students. They may not have an instrumental program, but they can create art based on what they hear you playing. So I love this little squiggly thing. I think it looks exactly like the Ravel Quartet. All right, here we go. I won't dwell on this, but I just want to remind everybody that art is at our very essence. It's been around for 20,000 years. We have had to create. This is from the very famous Lascaux cave paintings. That's so beautiful. It's really important. What we do is really essential and important. I know that in the outside world, people don't see it that way, but believe me, we need artists, or we have no history, we have no culture, we have no language. Okay, so these are instruments from different countries in Africa, and just again reminding us that this is universal language. We are not you know, just by ourselves. Everything we do has a connection with other cultures and with our daily lives. I just put this in here because I thought it was cool. It's 35,000 years old. We made an instrument. Okay. So if we, you know, it's like, well, we just need oxygen and we need water, and we need food to live. No, we have to have a weird flute too, apparently. There was music going on as well. Here are some really interesting instruments. There's a Nordic horn, there's an Abyssinian kind of a lute, Syrian and Middle Eastern music, ancient, much more ancient than Western music. Here is music in Egypt, okay? Part of daily life, just reminding us that we're part of a really big picture and how important this is. Here is a gamelan. This is from East Asia, from the islands of Java and Bali, which, by the way, inspired Debussy and Ravel. They would not have written the music that they wrote without inspiration from these instruments. This, of course, is an erhu, Chinese bowed instrument, beautiful, incredible instrument. Okay, that's just a weird French horn because I liked it and it's just cool looking. And this I saw in New York City because I was like, well, that's like the perfect chamber music instrument. You just can play everything. I just thought it was funny. Okay, there we go. Now here's what we're a little more used to. This is a tableau of Western European, you know, the Baroque era where music is a part of you know, parties and good feelings, and everybody's having an amazing time, and they're all focused on the music making. And here we have some more familiar. This is Schubert right there, sitting outside, you know, with a wonderful violinist having a picnic. And apparently this is I think Haydn on viola, Von Hall on cello. He looks a little grumpy. Sometimes cellists get grumpy if they don't eat. First violinist is ignoring everybody. That's probably von Dittersdorf. He's just playing. That's very typical. And the second violinist is a little spaced out. So I don't know how your quartets are, but that's pretty good there. So again, just the traditions of music that bring us together. Here we are in the present day. This is the Budapest Quartet. And these are all people that I either teach and I admire, both. Here's some students we all are going to be teaching. Here's some high school students from the Cleveland School of the Arts here. This is from the McDuffie Center, where I teach. And so, okay, so here's a little more of the nitty-gritty. Planning a successful engagement performance. You know, take the time to know your community. A lot of groups go out and they're like, okay, we're going to do school programs. But investigate, what, you know, did the local tax levy pass? Are the schools supported? And in fact, I prefer to go to places where the schools need help, because that's where we can make a bigger difference sometimes. I have to tell you honestly that Florida, the schools in Florida, and this is all over, have been my favorite schools. I'm talking about public schools to perform at. I mean, I don't know why. I couldn't really tell you why, but oops, here's Elliot. Shoot. Okay, wait, hang on a second.
Sorry, I'm just logging on to my computer.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to let you in. Wait. Uh-oh. Ah! What did I do?
You just turned captions on, it's okay.
Okay, hang on a second. Oh, this is super annoying. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet. Why can't I... Here we go. All right, Elliot, are you with us?
Yes.
Well, all right, so I think this is really important to know your community. Even if you're working with a presenter, I think it's important to reach out to administrators or arts directors, director of the library, or to a music teacher especially. We want to sort of communicate with these people as colleagues, not as, okay, we're the great artists coming into your school, but we're coming in to offer you, to share something with you. What is it that you need? What are things that you might be working on? And you would be surprised, I think, at the reaction of a music teacher in a public school when I or one of my colleagues calls them and says, "Hey, we're in the, Cavani Quartet. I'm a violinist. What instrument do you play? Oh, I'm a pianist. What are you working on with your kids? Oh, we're doing, Orff instruments. Oh, we're studying, Mozart." And great, then we'll play some Mozart for you. So you find these correlations, and when you go into the school, it is so much better, so much healthier. So it's worth a little extra effort, I think, to communicate with people. All right, so within your groups, or if you're doing this by yourself, but I would urge you to use chamber music as a catalyst for performing. For one thing, it's more fun um, because you have a team and you can sort of bounce things off of each other. But I will talk about this as if everyone is going to be doing this as duo, trios, quartets, etc. But you can apply the same things if you go as a solo artist. Think about what might tie your program together. You can use climate, you can use nature, you can use war and peace, you can be more philosophical. Our theme is teamwork, which is, so we use a metaphor as about sports, and we talk about passing the ball, and then that's analogous to passing a theme. So that's and we tie that loosely through the program so that we always have a sort of core mantra, if you will. I've helped quartets at CIM write a lot of different scripts. We've done we had a superhero once, we had Viola Girl, Super Sound Man, Mr. Rhythm. So we did that, like Marvel Comics. We had Harmony Hero. I've done, things with mythology. You can sort of grab themes that appeal to you, but it's really good to have a couple hours, sit down together and kind of hash out. Your music will inspire you as well. And then you want to prepare an outline or script. So whoever likes to do that kind of thing can take notes. And then I believe that each person in the group should speak. Not just one of you, but everybody should take a turn speaking on a subject that, sort of you're bouncing off the next person. Now, all of this is a little bit dependent on the age you're speaking to. We often try to target programs in communities where we're playing like maybe on a formal series to the schools where they are starting string instruments, say in 5th grade. So then we try to say, hey, we'll play for all the 4th graders and get them all zetzed up so that they only want to play the viola, violin, and cello. So again, that's knowing your community and working with a presenter in that sense. And then finally, the presentation basics. Your vibe and your attitude is everything. You need to be organized with your music and your instrument. And then, most importantly, if you're joyful, then the students will be joyful. Okay, so this is a little bit more detailed information. Always make sure that you're asking what is a good class time. You start to know that morning is probably better time in elementary schools. Afternoon is probably a better time in, for adolescents and high school kids. But you want to go when they need you to go. You need to know how long you have. Do you have 40 minutes? Do you have an hour and a half? You don't want to be cut off in the middle of when the bell is ringing. I always ask what we can do, what's on the curriculum. What is the school focusing on? Music relates to everything: math, physics, economics, history, social science. I mean, we can find ways to correlate almost anything that we play. Sometimes the school has a special personality. Sometimes it's good to know who the mascot is. And know the name of the school, so when you're there, you're referring to, you really are referring to them in a personal way. When you brainstorm, I already spoke about this, you want to create program segments. So specifically, you start with an introduction and a greeting. You introduce the name of your ensemble, if you have one, and you introduce the members. If physically possible, you want to always stand up when you're speaking in front of the group. Sometimes you have to use a microphone, but you want to project in the same way you are as a musician, projecting your part out into the hall or wherever it is you are. During this introduction, this is a great time for them to meet you and your instrument. So it's always good to play a little demonstration. Hi, I'm Annie, I play the violin, and you could play whatever you feel like, whatever you are inspired to. Paganini, Bach, Mozart, whatever you feel kind of explores the color of the instrument, just a few seconds. So you're really talking through your instrument. And then that's probably about a 10-minute segment. A second segment is perhaps introducing them to the theme. If your theme is conversation, then you might want to use a piece that involves a fugue or involves canonical writing, so they see how you play together in a conversation. The third segment might be about the mood of the music or dynamics in the music and how they create mood in the music. You can teach different words. The fourth segment can be about a composer specifically, bring them into the composer's world. And then finally, allow them to ask questions. And then it's good to have a fun closer. So we have in our quartet done Beach Boys. Oh gosh. Who sings I Heard It on the Grapevine? Oh.
Marvin?
No, the other. Oh God, I can't think of it. Anyway, right now we've done. Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking out. Okay, right now we do Uptown Funk, Bruno Mars. But you can find arrangements. There are cover arrangements for everything. So, you might have to find out what is like super popular. And you can do that. But in our segments, we typically do a piece by a living composer. We include always a BIPOC composer. we usually have something kind of a generational thing. So maybe Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Bartok, living composer, and maybe a romantic piece. So you need to have some, repertoire. You can also create something with one piece of music in through 4 movements. And in these segments, depending on the age group, the older the students are, the longer we will play. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Do you have like a set ratio of like pop music to classical, or do you usually just do like one pop thing at the end? Or does it...
We usually do one pop tune at the end, but it kind of depends. We have another piece we play, which is sort of like a blues jazz piece. And sometimes we'll use that. We kind of read the audience. Sometimes we'll say, is there something you want to hear again? Over and over and over again, we get asked to play Beethoven. It's unbelievable. Beethoven's music is so universal. I don't know. It's just so universal. Kids love it. But they love anything you play, especially if it's played well, if it's communicative. It goes without saying that you've really rehearsed and your your music, and you're convincingly really playing it beautifully together, which I know you all do. So, but we generally save that sort of at the end, as just like, hey, this is fun. You can, really a string quartet or a woodwind quintet or a brass quintet can do anything. But sometimes it can be a fun opener. It's just that it can distract maybe from, if the students hear that, I find that I think it's better track for listening for them to listen to music maybe they've never heard before. Because then you really get them listening. But that's just, sort of a personal thought on that. This is a little bit more about how to create a segment, how to brainstorm together. You want to have performance, demonstration, participation. So you might play something and you say one sentence. All right, we're going to play this wonderful piece right now, and I want you to watch what my friends in the quartet are doing. That's all you say. And then you demonstrate, and then you say, did anybody notice what I was doing? You've already explained that you have a bow. And did anybody notice what my friends were doing? Oh, they were plucking their instruments. Oh, that's called pizzicato, and it works like this. So you're always kind of creating, first of all, a no-fail zone, so that their answers to questions can be creative, and that there's never a wrong answer to anything. We tend not to, it's pretty important, and I think Eric Booth is huge about this in terms of presentation, but it's not a good idea to ask yes or no questions. Did you like this? You just want to say, oh, you guys are such a great audience. I can tell you loved this piece. So, and you have to sort of figure out the ratio of questions versus really presenting an idea, and then asking them to listen for something and challenging them to listen for something. So you can have art concepts, melody, rhythm, the timbre of the instruments, the story of the piece. You can ask them to write a story. There's a million possibilities: emotions, feelings, sound world, or artist concepts. You can have them kind of help you compose a piece on the spot. You can talk about how you have to practice or improvise. In the introductory part, sometimes we will talk about, our favorite ice cream or our favorite food or something that is relatable with everybody. This is a picture that I took of this group of kids, and they're reacting to a group of CIM students who just played, I think they were playing, it might have been a Bartok quartet, and you can like feel the energy, right? There's a lot of listening going on and thinking, and the vibe in the room is amazing. So your attitude is everything. You want to be caffeinated, and you want to be really respectful of the teachers in the room, of the students in the room. You got to memorize your script, right? Please trust me on this. Write a script and memorize it and repeat it in the mirror like you are the greatest Shakespearean actor of all time. This is probably obvious, but everybody brings their own very lightweight portable stand. Don't depend on a school to have stands because they're usually rickety. You also don't want to be playing with those giant metal stands. Those are like the Berlin Wall. They're horrifying. They block sound. I hate them. You can tell I hate them. None of the students that I coach I don't even allow them to use them. Everybody uses a low, professional string quartet stand. So that enables you to communicate, and the students see you communicating, and to them that says, oh, these people are cool. They relate to each other when they play. Have your music organized, yada, yada, that. If there are more than 50 students, and we did have one, there might have been almost 2,000 middle schoolers in a gym. And I was terrified. And this was one of the best audiences ever. They were so quiet. Maybe they were asleep. I don't know. But we definitely have to use a mic. Sometimes small props, I don't know if I'll just unshare for a second. So I'm a Beethoven fan, as you can see. So we had these hats made and they each have a different composer on them. Anyway, simple things like that, it just says we can, we're all in this together and we can relate to things. We have baseball hats because, as I said, we use a sports metaphor. Let's see. Now, lately, we have been using PowerPoint because most schools have whiteboards. So I'm going to take a little moment and show you our PowerPoint. Hang on a second. Stop. And let me just show you this. Let's see if I can get it. Okay. Here it is. So with the new quartet, we tried. Oh, is this on the share screen? Can you see this?
No.
Okay, hang on a second. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Just the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is what we do. Sometimes it's helpful. People like visuals. We talk about what chamber music is. these are all the composers that we play. Bartok, there's Pizzicato, Jesse, Dvorak, Goliath. So recently we tried to do a Mad Lib. It was kind of a disaster, but we tried it. We tried to have the kids put in words, but sometimes, yeah, it didn't quite work the way we wanted to. But you know, you try things. There's Ravel and there's Bruno Mars. Okay, so that's an idea that you can do if you want, but it's not necessary. So let me, how do I close this? And go back to, okay, is this on? Can you see? Oh,
Not quite.
all right, here we go. Sorry, guys. You're very patient.
Totally all right. I had a bunch of technical difficulties earlier.
You're good. It's back.
It's there? Okay, so. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. Yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Really good at this stuff. Okay, here we go. Now, oops, I blocked the media. I need to unblock. Hang on a second. How do I do that?
Enable over there on the right, I'm guessing. The button that says enable content.
Yep. There we go.
I think that'll do it.
Okay. So
The collaborative
yada yada yada. Okay, here's a action.
And since it is baseball season, I think it's only fitting we have special composers hats here, and we're gonna see if we can pass that melody around. So I need your best listening skills because you're gonna help us pass this melody around, and we might help you out a little bit. Overall, we try to instill the idea of teamwork and whether the student will go.
Okay, yada yada. Let's see if there's any more. Oh.
About our amazing equipment, our instruments. You know, I think just for a moment, I would like to talk to you guys just about listening to music. Now, I don't know about you guys, there's some music every time I hear it, it always makes me think of the same thing. Kind of like this.
When we teach and we coach chamber music, we're doing more than just teaching our students how to play their.
Okay, that's, you don't need to hear us yada yada. But anyway, that's some example of, this is a program that is specifically designed for sort of probably 3rd through 5th graders, or probably 6 through 10 year old, 10 years old, 10-year-olds. Anyway, all right. This is a little thing about crowd control. This is a small thing, but I wish somebody had told me this before I went into schools. Learn the sign for crowd control, because one thing you really don't want to be doing is shushing. That is a terrible thing. You don't want to say shush to kids listening to music. So you want to get them zetzed up, but then you have to know how to react and calm them back down. All right. So usually I find out from the teachers, like they have the clapping thing, they do And then the students repeat that back. Or there's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like you go 5 is the loudest and 1 is a, or there is some sign, peace sign. It just depends. Ask what that is, because if you get the kids riled up and you need to calm them down, again, you do not want to be going, shh. That's so annoying. I hate it when people do that. Anyway, all right. So here's how I handled that, though. It wasn't great, but you sometimes you have to go with the flow.
Vocal cords instead of strings. We use air from our lungs instead of the bow, and our bodies resonate with those vibrations. So to feel what that's like, everybody put your hand on your chest. We're going to, on the count of 3, say ah together. 1, 2, 3.
Oops, sorry.
Vocal cords instead of strings. Resonate with those vibrations. So to feel what that's like, everybody put your hand on your chest. We're going to, on the count of 3, say ah together. 1, 2, 3.
I want to point out one thing. You notice we're all participating. So if one person's talking, you don't be fidgeting with your music or talking on the phone or do it. Totally focus on what that person is saying, because remember, you're role modeling. All right, so anyway. So that didn't work.
You guys are awesome.
As a quartet,
Okay.
we believe that
So sometimes you have to roll with it and just get into it. So I decided not to try to shush, but just to try to react, and I just riffed on a rhythm with them, which can be really fun. You never know what's going to happen. But I highly recommend that small detail of knowing what the sign is at any given school or organization for, you know, kind of letting them go back to just really using their listening senses. Okay. Any questions? Using a few demonstrations that we do. All right. What is this? Nope. Come on. Ah, okay. So it's always good to maybe, there's so many ways of involving the audience. You can have kids come up and clap rhythms for you. You can divide the room into sections. I highly recommend you watch Bobby McFerrin. He is great at doing call and response with an audience, and he doesn't even tell them what he's going to do. He just starts singing, and then he points, and they sing back to him. It is unbelievable. People have a lot of music in them and a lot of expression. It's just nobody ever asks. So I highly recommend you watch Bobby McFerrin. This is a segment we do where we find a random child and bring them up, and they play on an extremely expensive fancy violin. But okay, so you'll see what happens here. And there's no sound. Come on.
I actually know Cooper's mom, so I kind of cheated. But anyway, and I'm a big fan of Cooper. And Cooper, have you played my...
Okay, so this is, you can also see, like, we have these dorky signs. So stupid. Now you can use a PowerPoint, but you can also bring your own signs. It's a little cumbersome, but.
Well, guess what you're doing? It's very easy. I'm going to show you. It's like a snap, okay? So I'd like you to join the quartet for a second. And Cooper's going to help us out today with some pizzicato. Would you have a seat on the chair, please? Sit right on the edge of the chair as you saw me do. Very straight and tall back, yeah, because you are a very tall young man. Okay, so it's very easy. He's going to put his hand on the shoulder of the instrument very gently, because these are very fragile, very gently, beautiful. And then this is called the button, and it's so easy. We take this button, we slide it down, and we just put our chin on this very fancy contraption with a very fancy name. It's called a chin rest. Chin rest. Chin resting on the chin. Okay. And we have instant violins. Okay. So now I need this hand. This is right hand, right? And then we're going to take this nice first finger, and you are going to do. I forgot what this is called. Wait, go ahead and say it all together. It's all right, you're professional here. Now the point of playing this quartet is playing with everybody else. So there's Kirsten, and there's Mary, and Mari's going to pick up beautiful melodies, so we'll watch Mari start. That was fantastic. So one thing we want to teach you today is what you say when you love a group of musicians or a musician. The word is bravos. Come here, Cooper.
Okay, so that's a little audience involvement. Oh, here's more sunglasses. Oh, we don't need to see that. So if you guys are representing FSU, I tried to find somebody with an FSU t-shirt, and I couldn't find that online, which is kind of weird. But anyway, I like the logo. It's very cool. Or your favorite team, or, you know, I think it's nice to have not a uniform, but something that connects you all. I will just tell you that we always just wear like black t-shirt, black pants, or something really neutral that is not drawing attention to us, but drawing attention to the fact that we are playing together, that we are a unit or a team. You can see in some of those videos where we have t-shirts that have our name on them and our instrument. It's really dorky. I can tell you that the rest of my quartet really didn't like wearing those t-shirts, but we did it anyway. So, especially for young kids, not high school kids. I can say that we, you know, have not collaborated, but we know Eric Booth, and he's seen us do our work, and Chamber Music America, Young Audiences, which still exists, can be very helpful. Organizations, even if you have talked to developmental psychologists, educators, if you have educators in your family, not necessarily musicians, but talk to them about relating to their classrooms, relating to their constituency, as it were. Okay, I'm going to stop this. All right, so thoughts. You want more specifics? You want general? You know, anything you want, I would like to support.
I have a question. When you're talking about your segments and you're playing different composers for them, how long are you normally playing for? Do you do like maybe one section or maybe a movement if you're doing like a classical string quartet? Like how do you gauge that?
That is really a great question. It's Mac, right? Or you Abby?
Abby, yeah.
Okay. Um, so for it really depends on the age group. So if we're doing like pre-K to second grader, that age group, it's a very short excerpt. Probably less than a minute. Then second through maybe fifth graders, anywhere from like a small short segment, like maybe 30 seconds, and then we play a longer segment. So we give them a listening activity, and then we play a longer segment. Can be, and we get longer, progressively longer as we go through the program. So the last thing that we play usually is from Dvorak American, and we do a hefty, probably 3 to 4 minute portion at the end. But I think for younger audiences, let's say sixth grade and younger, it's good to do small segments and a variety, and then have always an activity that they listen for. And then something maybe, that is cumulative at the end, and you could play an entire exposition once they have an idea of what and you prepare them. You can say, all right, we're going to play you something that's going to last for a long time. And we want you to have a story going on in your mind, something that is helping them to listen. But generally shorter segments. High school students, you can do a movement, that's a little bit more free. It depends on, what's happening. So any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I have one, yeah. Is there any way to sort of test or like focus group a script before you go out in schools and use it?
I think it's good to maybe run it for either a coach, if the coach is like-minded and they don't mind, Shannon or Miss Thomas and Miss Stillwell and Greg Sauer, I think would be amenable if you wanted to run a program for them, but for your peers. So
Okay.
Put your peers in the room and say, you guys, today you are fifth graders at Malcolm X Elementary School, and we're going to do our program for you, which is much harder to do for your peers because you're much more self-conscious. I would definitely do a trial run.
Okay.
You can also, you guys record yourselves all the time, so you could just record it. It's very hard to do by yourself. You need to have this is a audience, because you're getting a response, you're interacting. But we have had to do some things on Zoom this year, and then you're more presentational and you leave a little time to say, would anybody like to make a comment? Would anybody like to tell us what you heard? Or, that kind of thing. So,
Right, thank you. And sorry, I have one more. In deciding on a theme, do you think that's something that can also be done with whoever it is at the school you're trying to contact, like the music teacher? Do you think that'd be easier, or should you come up with your own, really?
I think it's good to come up with your own that's maybe something universal.
Okay.
The Miro Quartet, they did a food oriented. So there was how to make a sandwich, and the cello was like the French fries or something. It was like French fries, a hamburger, and a Coke or something. It was total junk food. I think now you'd have to have the vegan option, right? But so it can be an analogy to putting something together. It can be about conversations with friends, and then you can show how this composer creates a conversation this way. Sometimes, if the school that you're going to, sometimes schools are having things that are about behavior. And that's really easy because you can draw on the relationships in the quartet to say, you know, when we play together, we practice, we're respectful, we listen to each other, we try everybody's idea. So you can draw on some kind of behavior things that are very positive attributes of playing chamber music at the highest level. And then you can also find things with the instruments in terms of nature, what the instruments are made of, you know, the different kinds of wood that we have, and ebony and ivory and horsehair, and, you know, there's a lot of natural products going on. And then, of course, the composers. So there are so many great living composers. I would say you should always have a living composer on your program. You know, it just depends on if you feel like getting involved with the school, you can get into their curriculum. But it's good to brainstorm on a theme on your own, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Tekla.
For asking those open-ended questions of the younger kids, what advice do you have for making sure there's room for creativity and response, but the conversation is kind of going in the direction you want?
To be very specific in your prompts or what you're going to be talking about. Okay, so for instance, towards the beginning of our program where we've talked about team, we're on a team, Cavani is our team name. Then I will usually ask, imagine, I'm not asking, I say, imagine your favorite team. Now think about if you are on a team, what are some things you need to do to be helpful? What makes a great team player? And then I pick students, and there's no wrong answer to that. And you would not believe how amazing kids are. I mean, they come up with, they'll say empathy, listening, treating each other with kindness, sharing. They're unbelievable, you know, left to their own devices. It's the grown-ups that ruin everything. So that if you offer a scenario and a prompt, we talk about listening to music, and we offer some different ways of listening. So sometimes you can say, okay, we're going to play this piece, and after we're done, we're going to ask you to tell us what color you heard. There's no wrong answer. Let me try to think. So a specific prompt that doesn't really have that has a creative answer. Or we're going to ask you to show us, we're going to play this piece where we pass the melody around. And we're going to ask you to tell us when we're done who started and who went second, third, fourth, etc. But then we do it in such an obvious way. We stand up when we have a theme. They can't miss it. There's no way they can miss it. So you try to create a no-fail zone. Sometimes I'm trying to think of a time when a student reacted to something and Oh, sometimes we will ask, does anybody recognize this music? Does anybody know who the composer was? And sometimes the student will answer, oh, it sounds like, it sounds like a commercial, or it sounds like Bach when it's Mozart. And I think that it's always good to repeat their answer back to them and say, that is so fantastic. And then you never say, that's not correct. You just say, oh, but it's actually Mozart. You find ways to make the kids feel, they're already over-tested and overburdened. We all are with being right or wrong. So you want to get the message across that art is the one place where it's up to you. It's your interpretation. So we try not to ask yes or no questions, and we try to give prompts where you can't really go wrong. Or creating a story to the music, or if the music is loud or soft, or how does the music make you feel? There's no right or wrong answer. Does that answer your question somewhat?
Yeah, thank you.
Erica.
Yeah, are there any technical problems that we wouldn't necessarily expect would be a problem? Like, I know the few times I've had to use a microphone, I think the first time I did it, I just didn't know like how far to keep it and stuff like that. So are there things that we need to prepare for before that aren't necessarily musical?
Yeah, I mean, just make sure you have your music really organized and in the order that you want to play it, because futzing around with the music is annoying and it's also nerve-wracking. So you can make smooth transitions are the hardest thing to do. In terms of using the mic, I always ask, or if I'm the person who's the coordinating with the school, I ask for a mic on a mic stand so that you can hold your instrument and speak, or you can even play that way. But you noticed in that program that we were doing, it was a handheld mic. That's a little more difficult because then you have to put it down, but I think, I have a sort of loud voice and can project in a loud way, but you may have noticed that you didn't hear our violist. Our violist has a quiet voice. She just doesn't. That's not her thing. So she always uses a mic, and then she can totally be herself, which is really important, by the way. Be yourself, because kids know. They know when you're faking. But be yourself, and caffeinated is always good. But yeah, any group over 50, I would use the mic. Always ask ahead of time. Don't assume that a school has a mic. And if they say they don't, oh, we can't get one, we're not going to work, then be prepared to really project your voice. Or you can say, hey, you know what? Since we have such a large group of kids, could we divide them up? Could we just have a smaller group? Could we be in the classroom? And then if you're in a classroom, you don't have to project. If you're in a gym, it can be really difficult. But I think using a mic, you have to get used to the feeling of it. I don't love it. I find it awkward, but it makes it, you want them to hear what you have to say. So I'm trying to think of other technical issues. Sometimes chairs can be weird. Sometimes it's always good to be extra preemptive. So before you go, you ask for 4 chairs that don't have arms. Or you stand up, you find out if you're going to be on a stage in an auditorium, or if you're going to be with the students in a closer proximity. You know, sometimes if we have a large auditorium but a small group of students, we get everyone on stage with us. So everyone's sitting on stage and we're on stage so we can be closer to them. I think closer is better. That's me. I don't like playing in auditoriums for students. I find it, I can't stand it because they're down there and we're up here. What good does that do? We want to be with, you know? So anyway. So know the lay of the land ahead of time. I think that's a really good preemptive way to deal with schools.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys all, you know, you have great common sense. You're much better at technology than I am. I think that you're obviously organized. So have a list of things that you know. Make sure you have enough time to get set up so there are no surprises. That can be very awkward. You know, time to play a scale together or something so you can get used to the sound in the room. And make sure that you have enough space for the group to fit. A quartet needs about 12 by 16. You know, if you're a cellist, you need to deal with your end pin. What kind of floor are you dealing with? Like, you might need to bring a rock. I mean, those things, you already get those things. I think it's planning and having a substantive program that is really, really important. So, and I can't say this enough, script it, write it down. It's tedious. You're like, no, we can extemporize, it'll be fine. Trust me, write a script. If you're in front of 300 third graders, you want to know what you're going to say. Everything you heard us do, that is all scripted. Sometimes some of us, me, go off the rails a little bit, but I have a plan. And Mari, the other violinist, she will say verbatim. Every school show, verbatim, her script. And it's fantastic. So, yeah. That's probably the biggest thing I can share with you is to have it memorized. Don't be reading it because kids know. Nobody wants to go look at a musician going, okay, now we're going to play some music by Mendelssohn and it's a really cool piece. And no, talk to them. Memorize your script. You can do it. Any other questions? Carly, Carly and then Elliot.
I'm wondering if you've encountered any situations where the kids were either not really listening or unwilling to participate in what you were trying to get them to do.
It sounds really a little arrogant when I say this, but no. Our program, especially like for that age group, is very fast paced. That's why it's good to go fast. It jumps from one thing to another. They are listening. We always have prompts for them. So they're always listening for something. They're always given something that they are doing with their minds. So we have never had a problem with that. Only with getting them really riled up so it's really noisy and then like, okay, how do you move to the next segment? Yeah. And having something to listen for, whether it's counting the instruments, whether it's, you know, the feeling of the music, the emotional quality of the music. How did the music make you feel? What did the composer? What do you think this composer was feeling? And then you can play anything. I had one group that played Opus 132. they played the opening of the slow movement, the Heidelgedanke song. That you wouldn't think that would be like a kid piece. The students were so intuitively into it, and they described what they heard. And I remember one child said that it reminded him of when his brother died. I mean, it was like we were all crying. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So don't underestimate the power of the music to help them listen, but you do have to set the tone, you know. Sometimes you can even use silently. You can say, okay, we're just going to listen for silence. And suddenly you can feel it. They're all like, wow, okay, I don't want to make a sound. So, and there's a lot of, okay, now you're going to listen for, yeah. It also helps if you have faculty that are there who are participating in that way. That helps too. But yeah, we've knock on wood, we have never had a bad experience that way. The worst thing that ever happened was in Minnesota. We asked them to tell a story, to make up to use their imagination. What was happening in the music? And this child stood up and he said, well, I heard somebody being stabbed and running away. And a teacher came running out and she grabbed this child and took him out for saying that. And I was like, oh, you know, I felt bad for the kid. You know, he got disciplined for saying that. I don't know. You can't always control what's happening, but if you have a noise problem, be presentational, maybe less questions, keep it moving. You know, we usually start with loud, fast, then a little slow, loud, fast, slow. So alternating the rhythm and the dynamic of the music can be good too. So, yeah. Elliot, what was your question?
I'm sorry if my connection's a little iffy. Sometimes I freeze and I don't know what to do. But I was just wondering how you guys even reach out to these schools. Like, what is your method in doing so and setting up these events?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, if you have to do this as a cold call, in other words, you guys are coming up with this yourself, and what I would do is go look at a school district. So Tallahassee Public Schools. You go online and you look how many elementaries, how many middle schools, how many high schools. You get an idea of like how big is this school system. If you want to go to the elementary school that's right near you, sometimes I'll try to figure out a connection between the institution that I'm representing. For instance, Florida State University, I imagine, has an education, huge education division. So you call over to that department and you talk to somebody there and say, hey, we'd like to do a music program in the schools. Are there schools that you are working with? Are there schools you think this could benefit? Are there schools that have a music program that we could support? So there are two ways of looking at it. To find people who know somebody in the school, or if you're going to make a cold call, call the principal. Call the principal of the school. Or email. They're usually a little overwhelmed with things, but you send an email and say, we'd love to present a program for your school. You know, is this something that you would be interested in? Or make a call. And you'll know if the principal is interested, then that's a school you want to go to. If they're not interested, it's going to be hard. The best schools we've ever been to have principals who love the arts. Yeah. Anyway, okay, it's probably, you guys probably have to go. I've been yada-yadaing on and on, but yeah. Any other? Matthew?
Last one, I think. I was hoping you could give us like sort of play-by-play on how exactly a theme brainstorming session among your colleagues would go.
Maybe starting with repertoire.
Okay.
So, okay, what's your quartet working on? What did you play this year?
We did Beethoven, Opus 18, number 2, and Shostakovich, Adagio, and Allegro.
Fantastic. Okay. Like, you mean the Shostakovich octet?
No, 2 small pieces for string quartet.
Ah, okay. I think this was the one you were talking about, Carly, and you were...
Yeah, I sent you the score for it.
Okay, that's right. Okay. All right. So this is fantastic. Right away, this is easy. Beethoven is a wealth of information, but 18.2, the last movement is perfect. That's a good starter. You play, you don't say a word, you just play that opening until you get to a big crashy chord, or I would do maybe from the end. So you just have an opener, hello, and then you say, hello, you introduce yourselves, that's easy part. Hi, I'm Matthew, I play the violin, and I love playing the violin, and this is my friend, Abby, and she's also a violinist, and this is what it sounds like when we play together. Okay, go on. The introductions are easy to brainstorm. But you want to introduce everyone and have it. Then you move to, you can think about, well, okay, what's something we want to get across about Beethoven? Well, we probably want to talk about how the instruments work together. Before we get into the emotional quality of the music, we want to show how the instruments work. So you could do, the violin plays really high, the cello plays really low, and then you find some spots where the tessitura of the quartet. So you could brainstorm about that. Maybe thinking about you could do a whole thing on moods, you know, with the Beethoven, dynamics.
Okay. So I guess like the ensemble would decide on theme.
Yeah, like, so you take the music and then you start saying, what do we want to highlight?
Okay.
And actually this helps your own rehearsal process, because you're like, wow, are we actually doing the dynamics? Like, this is fortissimo, this is pianissimo, this is piano forte, and then you can teach the kids the dynamics, and then you actually end up playing better. Let's see. Yeah, there are a lot of, I think the music can give you the inspiration. You can draw on popular culture, like superheroes, you know, sports teams. That one is that one works really well, especially in this country, because everybody, that's something that's universal. People sort of relate to, especially children, but everybody, you know, sports are very popular. It's very easy to relate music to passing and connecting and teamwork. Conversation. I don't know. Did you have themes that you guys talked about?
We focused mainly on narrative, especially in the Shostakovich, just because it was sourced from his opera. Okay,
so you talked specifically about what inspired him to write this, what it was about programmatically.
Yeah, and sort of what was going on, like what Shostakovich was playing the music for what events were happening, whether what Lady Macbeth was doing.
Yeah, sometimes that's a really, it's not a nice story.
No.
It's not really kid appropriate. But you could play the music and ask them to react to it and see what they think it's about. That's always a good starting point. And then say, well, it happens to be that Shostakovich lived his life in this way. And this is something we can all relate to, you know, feeling frustrated with. Anyway, never mind.
Right.
I think games, you know, sometimes that can be a good inspiration. I don't know, try to think of things you liked when you were a little kid and then connect those to the music, if that's your audience. If you're going to play for a group of high school students, you know that they are thinking about what's happening next in their life and probably thinking about themselves, because when you're an adolescent, your job is to be a little self-involved. And that's a good thing. So if you can draw them out to talk about themselves in relation to the music, then that's also a way of, you know, brainstorming. And then you can talk about social political issues with high school kids. It really depends on your age group when you're brainstorming. But if you can find something that ties things together, it doesn't have to be complicated. But the music can inspire that. And then your own personalities. You know, you can play off of your own personalities. If one person in the group is like loud and daffy, and another person in the group is, you know, studies the dictionary every day and is pretty chillax, you know, you can play off of the personalities of the people in the group too. And you can relate those to the instruments. Also, the instruments are endlessly fascinating. So how they're built, how they work, that they're like, we call the neck, and this, you know, what's a scroll and all of that stuff. So there's lots of information. You just have to figure out how you want to disseminate it. But yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
I don't know if that's helpful, but
yeah, I think so. I just wanted to figure.
If you sit down and say, what do we want to get across, and what's the music? And try not to be less literal. Start in the abstract with bigger concepts, and then you can narrow it down, you know?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys are wonderful. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And, you know, keep me posted. I'm always happy to natter on about nothing. But if you want to like you have a program that you're prepared and you want to run it for me, I'd be happy to hear it.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
We didn't really talk about public speaking, but it's really good to just maybe go on the internet and read about some small techniques for public speaking, like articulation. Our cellist used to say that she would try to smile while she spoke because it helped her to articulate, like I'm doing right now, but I look like a crazy newscaster. So you have to be true to yourself, but you're also responsible to your audience to let them in and make them feel good and make them feel safe to listen to what you have to say and listen to the music. So a little public speaking advice from either, you know, somebody, an actor or somebody who knows what they're doing, or just like I just have read some stuff online to do, and, you know, because that's not like our thing. We're used to sending out our voice through our music. But if you want to do this well, it's good to feel confident in your presentation as a public speaker. And it's just practice. There's no such thing as somebody who's not good at public speaking. You just practice it. You know, do it for your dog. Bring over 3-3-year-olds and talk to them. You'll be fine. So, all right. Well, unless there's something else, you know, I'm happy to be a resource ongoing, because I really believe this is important on so many levels. Just getting music out there is great, but now that we can be live again, there's nothing like a live performance for kids. You could change somebody's life, you know? They might want to play the viola. Yay! So anyway, but it's really great to see you guys. And I hope this was helpful in some way.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Hope you.
At the very least, you know, for you to understand how important you are to music and how important your creative spirit is. That's the number one thing, if I can get that across. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have
Bye-bye.
fun.